Today's episode is going to be a little different with my teacher, Miss McCarthy, who just recently left Westfield, and she was a teacher in the Bridge program for many, many years. And I felt it was necessary to ask her some questions because Bridge is a program tailored to kids who need a little more extra help with everything. And there's no shame in that at all. So, with that, let's get right into it.
Let's sit in bed and watch the sun paint my window. The light comes through and bathes our lives in red. Let's go outside and watch the leaves fall above us.
I just wanted to ask questions like, what are behaviors you would often see from kids who are dealing with intense emotional and behavioral problems?
So in the Bridge program, we would mostly see students who were having trouble dealing with whatever issues were going on in their lives, and that's why they were in our program. And in class, any kind of behavioral issues we saw were usually, there's a whole spectrum, a whole range of them, but, kids would have different outbursts depending on whatever was going on in their lives and whatever moods they were in. We'd have kids that would actually up and out of class, just on their own, would leave, walk out.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute meltdowns in class, bouts of crying, screaming and yelling, and all different behaviors like that.
So I'm guessing that affected the class as a whole every now and then, or most of the time.
Yeah, it wasn't always that often, because we really dealt with a lot of the issues right in the classroom. The Bridge program is really, it put a heavy focus on the emotional state of the kids before the academics.
Right.
So, we couldn't get through a lesson unless the emotional state of everybody was in a place where they could learn.
Okay.
So, if there were times when we were having issues and, we have to handle the emotional state before we could get to the lesson, and that's how we had to do it.
Okay. Wow, I'm learning some of this stuff today. But what are some common warning signs that indicate a student is extremely uncomfortable, in distress, or possibly having thoughts of hurting themselves or others?
That varies really from individual to individual, but oftentimes we get to know those kids so well.
Right.
We become a big family. So it's like knowing your own child and how they normally react to a situation. And when they are in distress, we see different signs coming from them. So there could be, they become a little more introverted, or they become a little more extroverted and, more outbursts than they would normally have.
Okay.
Some students might have things that they might say that they wouldn't normally say. And that's what we would often see.
Okay.
And that would raise the signs for us.
Yeah, that sounds like something. That sounds like. How does that normally work out? Is it dealt with separately? Are they out of the classroom?
Yeah, well, one of the great things about the Bridge program is that there are several teachers and paraprofessionals in the room at one time. So if one of us will notice something going on in one of our kids, we'll get them out of the classroom immediately and either deal with it right in the hallway. We have a separate hallway, which is so great about that program, if you remember.
Yep.
So we can kind of counsel right in the hallway and not be disturbed by anybody, or we'd go get one of our counselors or case managers if need be.
Okay. I've heard a few times over the announcements that they've called either a counselor or an administrator down to that area. Mm-hmm. But it didn't happen often. That's what I remember.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So it sounds
we
like
usually handle it right in-house.
Yeah, it sounds like very capable. I know most of the teachers in that program, but I knew that there was two teachers, but I forgot that Miss Boldo would be in there or other paraprofessionals.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
sometimes two paras would be in the room if it were a big enough class.
Wow. Okay. See, that's amazing. Like normal classes, people just have to, pretend nothing's going on. Or if it's
Right.
project, we at least, have a community sense just like you guys do.
Exactly.
It sounds like the community sense is basically the same. The only thing about project is main it's taught the course curriculum isn't altered that much.
Okay.
So, and I've heard that this bridge has an altered curriculum. Is that correct? Like special
It
education
it
curriculum?
does. It follows more of the replacement curriculum
Okay.
for special education than the mainstream classes.
Okay. Um, you already answered my next question, which was how has Bridge program been able to support its students? But do you believe it was helpful to students more often than not? Even though you'd hear kids, you know, um, some kids would come out and say like, "Oh, I hate my teachers" or whatever.
Yeah.
But do you think it was helpful to them, even if they don't admit it?
Yes, and I've had many students come back and say that. Right then in the moment, they'll hate you, they'll kick and scream, and they'll tell you that, they hate school and they hate you and they never want to come back again.
Right.
I've had students, I like to stay in touch with my students. I like to see where they're going and what they're doing. And luckily, through social media, I've been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them will reach out to me and say, I know I gave you a hard time, but I can't thank you enough for sticking by me, even though I gave you such a hard time. So, but that's why we're there.
Yeah.
That's why we do this, because we believe in all of you, and that's why we think that, you guys are going to be successful. So we do our best to deal with all of that. It's not easy, but that's why we're there.
Right. Right. Did you ever have those kind of days where it just felt like you weren't able to like deal with them, or were you pretty much able to just deal with them? Not in a
Yeah,
negative sense.
I know students don't think their teachers are human. I don't know if they think we're robots or whatever, but we really are human, and we do have feelings and emotions. And there are plenty of times that I left with tears in my eyes because of a situation that happened, or a student came in with a particular story about what is going on in his or her life, and you feel helpless sometimes, and you feel like you can't do anything, and you want to touch. I've seen students, outside of school, who have contacted me because they feel that they're going to hurt themselves, or they feel in a very uncomfortable state. So I will go meet with them in a public place so that they just have somebody that can support them when they feel like they have nobody else.
That's amazing.
So and that's what we do. We put ourselves out there to help as much as we can within reason. And I've gone home, my poor husband, I've gone home with like tears in my eyes, and he's like, "What happened today?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it. I have something I have to try and deal with. Wake up tomorrow and try again with this student."
Right.
So there are times that we definitely feel like, I don't know how I'm going to do this or what I can do for this kid.
Right.
But, we do what we can do. And luckily we have such a support system at the school between the whole Bridge staff, the teachers, the counselors, the case managers, the department chairperson. We all work together as a team.
Yeah, that's important. Teamwork is important, especially for a program like that. And so it's good to know that there's a lot of people involved with that.
Yeah, there really are, and everybody does get involved.
Yeah,
Countless meetings I've attended for my students.
And you're excluding all the staff meetings, I'm guessing, or there are plenty more meetings for Bridge.
There's separate meetings for the Bridge program.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
So did you often have to stop lessons, or what did you do to maintain the class structure of something like that? I mean, I know you said that sometimes they're out in the hallway and it'll be dealt with in-house, but was there...
Luckily, we would have the two teachers in the room. So if a lesson could be continued, depending on the situation, one of the other teachers would be able to continue the lesson while another teacher would tend to the student.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I know that, I said that we did focus a lot on the emotional status, so sometimes we would not be able to get through a lesson. That didn't happen that often. We'd always be able to continue working at some point. Maybe not that day. We'd plan a lesson, and you would give it extra time within, the time frame you wanted for that lesson, because you had a plan for this to happen. So, maybe we planned on getting through chapter 2 in 2 days, but instead it took 4 days. And so be it. That's how it was. We got through everything when we needed to.
Right. That makes sense. So, what are the most important things to consider when interacting with a student who is seriously struggling or dealing with immense emotional pain? Because it sounds like the program itself will, I guess teach its teachers how to kind of work with that, but I know there's also
Yeah.
other like just instinctive things that teachers have for kids sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why I think we were selected to be in the bridge program, because we can do this.
Hmm.
And you don't just go into the bridge program. You're just selected by the department chairperson, and
Makes sense.
you have to make sure that you can handle this kind of thing. It's not meant for everybody. So we learn from each other. It had a one in the program for many years. I don't know if you knew who he was, Chuck Ropars, and he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we learned from him. He was like the headmaster of the bridge program. He was amazing. So getting to work with him for the amount of time and the years that I worked with him, I learned so much from him. And it does come with a little bit of practice and learning. You can't walk in brand new to the bridge program and expect to save everybody. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, wow, this sounds very close to like project. Obviously it's a separate thing, but it sounds like the team development and everything is sort of along the same lines.
I think the dynamics of both programs are similar in that sense.
Right, except one deals with the emotional side while the other deals with the academic side, or at least trying to get, because there are very small cases of one of my, I can't say names, but there's a kid that, a kid I remember last year who just had like a complete breakdown because there was a situation where like politics were involved and the kid broke down.
Okay.
And the project teachers were just able to facilitate his support very well. And that's the same thing I would see in the bridge program, because not that I was in the program, but I'd be down in that hallway during certain points of the day.
Correct, yeah.
So it sounds very similar, and it sounds like, because in project you can't also just walk in. From what it sounds like, I remember when Dr. Horn brought in Miss McKeon and Mr. Daly, and they were like, to me it looked like they were watching some training video, but it was probably one of the Project 79 classroom close-up videos that they have.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, I wouldn't be able to just, if I ever became a teacher, I wouldn't just be able to walk into and be like, oh, hey, I want to be in project. They require, I think, one or 2 years, I'm not sure. And then I don't know if they do like a full background, like evaluation of like teaching and whatnot. Right. But is that what Bridge does? Do they totally evaluate you as a teacher?
Not so much as in it's like, whatever you've been teaching, all along, how has that, built you up to be able to teach in the bridge program? That's not really how it is. I mean, every special education teacher is qualified to teach in the bridge program. It's more about, is personally something you would want to do.
Right. Okay. So they talk more about like how can you handle it emotionally.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because you have to be able to handle, some special ed teachers are great at in-class support and replacement, but maybe the bridge program is not the best place for them.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
It's a different set of skills. So, you have to be able to do that. So it's something that's talked about at meetings, and, and our administrator, our department chairperson will always discuss it with teachers first. Is this something you would like to try?
Right.
As opposed to just putting somebody in there.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What are your values when it comes to the students, and have you found it to be rather easy or rather difficult when trying to apply the values in school? Because there are some ethical guidelines for teachers.
Yes. The biggest thing I always valued in my classroom with my kids in the bridge program, any classroom that I was teaching in, but especially in the bridge, is their level of comfort, and do they feel safe, and do they feel like this is a place where they want to be?
Okay.
So that is something that I would really stress upon myself, and I know my kids have felt that way, and I did that because a lot of our students just did not like to be in school.
Right.
So trying to make them feel like a safe place and a comfortable place took a lot of work and a lot of trust.
Absolutely.
So oftentimes when a student came in, new to the program, maybe day one it was just getting them to the door,
Right.
and then they'd have to go home. And then maybe day two they'd come through the door and greet everybody and then maybe go home. And then progressively build up the trust so that they'd want to come in the classroom and be there.
Right. I forgot what I was going to ask, but I'm pretty... okay. So the stigma surrounding Bridge is that all the kids are... They're, they have... they don't want to... they're kept in school because, it's required or something. I can't remember.
There's a different stigmas placed on those kids, which I know makes it even more difficult for them to be there.
Right.
But it also depends on the time. We've had all different, classifications put upon us. It's the kids who are in drugs and drinking. It's the kids who are afraid to go to school. It's the kids who, it's all these different stigmas that are put on these kids. So it's been really hard to get away from that, and it's been hard to advertise the program to people who it would be good for because they just hear these rumors
Yeah,
which couldn't be further from the truth.
Right, and I remember because I came in after my second visit to High Focus. I met with my case manager, and she had recommended Bridge because she knew, because I wasn't going to classes. I didn't feel comfortable, and she explained to me what Bridge was about, and I was like, wait, that's Bridge? I'm pretty sure I've heard something else.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course. And see, I imagine that if Bridge did a campaign program just like Project did last year or 2 years ago, I feel like maybe, I'm not sure it'd be able to be done, but it's still, I think it's important. And hopefully people that listen to this are some Westfield people, because I think they could use a little informational stuff on this, because they walk around.
It would be good if people understood what the Bridge program was about, instead of just going around saying, "Oh, that's where all the bad kids go," because that's not where all the bad kids go. That is not what. It's not an in-house jail. That's not what we are. We're a program that has been designed to help students learn in a different way.
Right.
Just like Project. That's why we have all these different programs in the school, because learning is not one size fits all.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself, and I'm sure that's Dr. Horn's line. I'm pretty sure, or I think maybe even Al Lantis's line. The one size.
Well, that's why these programs were created.
Yeah.
So I like that stigma is on these programs, and I know that students and even parents feel that way. I had once had a phone conversation with a mom. The kid was in my replacement class, and I had suggested the Bridge program, and I had to talk to her on the phone about it, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want my child there because it's where all the bad kids go." I was like, "Well, unfortunately, you were misinformed about the program. I am a teacher in the program, and I would like to tell you about it." And once we sat down and spoke about it, her perspective completely changed because she didn't know.
Right.
She only knew the rumors she had heard. So, but the only other problem with advertising it is that we're limited to the amount of kids we can have in the program.
Exactly. And there's another...
In order to make it function properly, we can only have so many kids in it.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the other program that's in the school. Not sure if it'd be appropriate to mention it, but there is another program there that is sort of similar in some ways. And they're very limited too. So that's the problem, is that there's no... And that's the problem with public schools, is because you can't have... Not everyone can be in... not everyone can have what they might need. And
right.
So I guess the most important thing would be advocacy. If you if there are people out there who seriously need support, they should go to their case manager or their counselor, and they can, and that's them. It's up to them mostly. Besides the numbers.
We have had many visits. We've had many students and parents come to visit the program and to spend some time in the classroom to see what goes on. And that usually takes that stigma away too, when they actually get to see the teachers and the students interact. And, it's still real school. There's still lessons being taught. So once
there's still homework.
That,
despite what people say, there is homework.
There's homework. I mean, it's not the same type of homework given in other classes, but there's still homework. That is a huge rumor. Oh, there's no homework in the bridge program. Well, no, there were students choosing not to do their homework, and it was severely affecting their grades. So, yes, there's homework, but it's just different than. That's why the whole program is different. It's not the same as the rest of the school.
And that word can often mean a lot. And a lot of people don't necessarily like different, so it's harder for people to understand different stuff.
Yep.
'Cause
different is usually associated with being negative.
Yep. I remember I tried joining Project freshman year, and my dad was like, "No way, absolutely not." That's because of the negative stigma that was there. And just as you guys have sat down with people, they sat down with us and were like, "Yeah, this is false." We have, like, if you want to see our statistics of kids who go on to college. And I mean, from what I've at least seen, like, I know some kids that were in Bridge at one point, and it's not like they drop out after. It doesn't always happen like that.
No, we've had plenty of kids go to college from the Bridge program.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you're...
And we've also had plenty of kids go right into some sort of,
trade,
vocational training,
right,
and then go right to work. So that's just as much of a success.
And trades and vocational schools are not often advertised positively either in this country.
Right.
So, but one of my good friends who ended up joining Bridge, like, his last year is, off doing his thing, going to be an electrician. He's going to make more money than I will coming out of the gate.
Exactly.
So.
Probably make more money than I made being a teacher. So, I mean, that's it's such a shame that stigma's put on it, but the trades are so important because college is not for everybody.
Yeah.
So being able to learn a skill and go out there and get a job, that's such a complete success. And, one of the programs that we teach in the Bridge is called Transition, and it's, focusing on life after high school. Well, what do I do now? Because maybe college is not for me. So we talk about all things like that, and then how to, like, be out there and live on your own, like independent having
living,
an independent life. So that's all the kind of stuff that we would focus on in one of the programs in the Bridge.
Wow. I have learned a lot of stuff about Bridge today, that's for sure. That's one thing. You learn something new every day.
Good.
But and hopefully other people will too.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten enough feedback to know that someone's listening. So as long as one person is better than none. So I think that's pretty much it. But I mean, if there's anything else you want to say to advocate for Bridge or anything, then you have the floor.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know why the program exists. Just because people don't all learn in the same way, like we mentioned before. So I think it's great that Westfield has these different programs to fit the needs of all kinds of people to become successful, and that's why we exist. And I loved being a part of that program. So I felt so honored that I was able to be a teacher in that program for as long as I was. And I just hope that kids who do get to be part of the Bridge program find it to be helpful and find like they have another family that they can go to, and because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's all we can hope for.
All right. Thank you. And also, I think it's important that they utilize it, because there are many kids I know in every angle of the school who don't utilize the school's abilities or program's abilities enough. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So that is it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next week.
I'd take it for you.